Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of the Singapore Sidley Fest. You're with me, Olivia Higgins. Today, we have an exciting lineup of speakers for you, and we're going to learn all about self-directed investing. So come have a seat with us right now for day 2, just like you did yesterday for day 1, and have a seat at the virtual table and get your notes ready because we're about to learn a lot from the experts we have lined up today. Now, while we wait for a few more people to join us, I'd like to remind everyone that this session, as always, we're here to provide you with the educational tools to help you in your investment decisions. Now, let's get started. Today's topic, self-directed investing with Next Gen Investors Endowment. We are very pleased to have our key experts joining us today, Tiffany Liu and Ong Zheng Qing, and they're right here on the floor. Welcome.
Thank you, Olivia. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Tiffany. Hi, Zheng Qing. How are you doing?
Great. It's a great honor to be able to spend my Sunday in such a meaningful way and have the chance, to be part of the City Fest.
Thank you. And I understand that, there's so many components of self-directed investing. And today we're about to break apart even the common misconceptions and what it truly means to be a part of this journey and maximizing that for oneself. So I think there is a rise, in this popularity of trading apps, of tools online, of discussion groups. And people are just tending towards managing their own portfolios instead of going towards the more traditional methods, right? So I think, people are looking for ways to always craft a strategy that is unique to themselves. So perhaps we could start, before we go into the presentation, the open discussion, let the audience know maybe one or two things about yourself.
Okay, yes. So my name is Tiffany Liu. I'm the co-founder and director of Next Gen Investors Endowment. So you probably have never heard of us, but we are a non-profit organization incorporated here in Singapore, and we promote investor education. So we produce episodic comics about investing, and then we also run educational programs for students. I personally have about 6 years of experience in the asset management industry. Previously, I worked for a hedge fund, and then currently I'm working for a family office. And I hold an MBA from University of Oxford.
Amazing. Thank you, Tiffany. What about you, Zheng Qing?
Okay, so hi, my name is Zheng Qing. I'm currently a year 2 student in Singapore Management University. So I'm pursuing a degree in business management and majoring in finance. So I'm an active member in Next Gen Investors Endowment, and I joined about a little over a year ago due to my passion in investing. And I've been investing for about 5 years. And I'm looking to join the investment industry.
Amazing. So let's start with our core question. Why self-directed investing? And I think we need to go down to the core. What is it truly about? Maybe we can start with Tiffany.
Sure. Yeah, when you first approached with the title, I thought it was really interesting because when you first hear the word self-directed, I think it will occur to most people as something that you do only by yourself. However, when I spend a bit more time looking at self-directed investing, I feel that really shouldn't be the case for investing. So for me, self-directed investing describes a learning journey that is driven by a passion for investing and should be built on the discovery of your strengths and weaknesses. So you have that autonomy to decide what kind of investing suits you best. And a huge part of this self-directed investing is actually about developing your own knowledge and skill. And how can you best acquire that knowledge and skill? For me, I think it's really through communities. So for example, an online community like Moomoo, or a network like Next Gen Investor Endowment. So investing cannot and should not be a solo journey because we just have too many blind spots. and so many biases. So as much as you should have your own views and judgment, I feel it's extremely, extremely important to understand what are some of the inherent biases that you have and avoid making mistakes because of the biases by speaking to other investors and gaining more perspectives through the communities that we have access to.
Right. And Ting, what do you think about this? What really is the core of being self-directed?
So I think Tiffany brought up a few great points, and I definitely agree that self-directed investing does not mean you have to go through the investing journey alone. Personally, I believe that self-directed investing describes an investing journey that starts with passion and curiosity about investing and the world around us. So being driven by passion and curiosity, I personally have embarked on my investing journey about 5 years ago and have been learning a lot since I've started. I've also got to know many people with the same interests through Next Gen Investors Endowment and other clubs that I'm in. I think being self-directed is also about having your own investing goals and the process to achieve those goals, because everyone will have different goals in their investing journey. Being self-directed to me is also sticking with your own process and remain very focused in attaining your goals without being influenced by all the noise around you.
Oh, 100%. I think noise is a big factor, and there's a lot of it, especially with what Tiffany brought up about the communities. And also, I think, if we extend beyond that point, I really find you guys also an inspiration in this. And I think we can go into, your personal motivation. So what is that one key thing that has motivated you? Because it seems that the consistent theme with self-directed investing is the idea of freedom. What about yourself?
So I think for me, it has to actually go way back. So I was still in university, which is quite some time ago. So when I was in school, to be honest, I had zero idea of what investing is about. Obviously, my parents manage their own money, but as I think most Asian families do, we don't really talk about money management at home. So no one has ever told me what investing is about. And my idea of growing my money is just to put it in the bank. And we all know how pathetic interest is. So for many years, I really was clueless. And what actually changed me was when I met my husband in university, and he is a finance student. So suddenly there's someone in your life that kept telling you, about stock market, about bond, about dividend, blah blah blah. And you're just like, oh, what's all this? And then it started. When your loved one is so interested in this topic, you will try to want to learn more about it as well. So I think that was the first part of my motivation, that I wanted to have this topic. But what really then motivated me to start investing was when I started at my first job at a hedge fund. So a bit of background, I studied international relations when I was in school, so it's a social science subject, nothing math about it. So I always thought that investing is meant for someone who is very good with numbers. And I'm not. I'm really not. I think a lot of you that's online now probably also hated me. And I did as well. I just felt like I couldn't do investing well if I'm not someone who is very quantitative. But when I started my first job, my first manager, he was someone who truly believes in fundamental investing. He believes that the most important thing about investing is the judgment of people. You need a good management because the world is always changing. And then a business model that looks enticing at this moment could become completely overreach in the future. And the only important thing is that this management knows how to adapt changing environment and continue to grow the business. And what he said really resonated with me. And then I started to spend more time, just reading biographies, looking at what managements do, understanding their life, and then understanding the different type of business model and industries. And that was the qualitative part of investing that ignited a lot of passion within me. And then it it became such a great learning experience because in many other jobs, to be honest, you will only be limited to your own industry. But when you are in the asset management industry, you are paid to learn about different industries, different businesses, different people, and that was so enjoyable. So it then became my second motivation to continue investing because I want to continue this learning journey. I think what Olivia mentioned is, of course, very important to a lot of people as well, the ability to have your financial freedom. And we all know about the power of compounding. The earlier you start, the better you are. So that's definitely the last motivation as well. So I would say for me, these are the three main motivations.
Wow, I love that. I think, when you put that personal and meaningful angle to it, it's definitely something more long-term and more unique and special. Thanks for sharing that, Tiffany. Zheng Qing, for yourself, you are, like what Tiffany said, she started as well really in uni, right? What about yourself?
So personally, I think I got exposed to investing in my polytechnic days, in the last year of my polytechnic. And some friends were bringing up, at the time it was Apple. So Apple was one of the largest companies at the time. And the idea of being able to own a stake in a company was very intriguing because similarly to Tiffany, I think Asian families don't really bring up investing on dinner tables and stuff. So I think it was very interesting on that I could own a stake in a company with, at the time, it was about $100. So I think that sparked my interest in investing. But as I read more into it, it's really about the idea of having financial independence and being able to do what you want if you have enough money. I think that was the initial motivation. But as I got to reading more, I got more curious about the world and the investing and about all companies in the world. So as Tiffany mentioned, you get paid in the industry to learn about different different industries and different companies. So I think learning and curiosity is the next motivation for me to continue on my investing journey. So I think that's where the self-directed element comes in because you have to let your passion and curiosity drive you. If not, you wouldn't really go far.
Right. Thanks for sharing. So I think if we zoom down to our audience today watching with young, active investors, how are they maximizing online trading tools at the moment?
So I think there are really multiple ways that young investors can and are Moomoo as an example, and just share some of the functions that the young investors are actually utilizing. For example, I utilize. Can you see my screen? Yeah. So I think for a lot of people, like first of all, if you don't have that first bucket of capital that you can invest, it's always good to just start getting the feel of the market by using paper trading. So I think Moomoo has a really good paper trading function. For example, like they give you 1 million paper money straight for the Hong Kong market, the US market, the Chinese Asian market, and the Singapore market, which I think is the main markets that most of the Asian young investors invest in anyway. And then by starting with paper trading, you get in touch with the market, which I think is really the most important first step that you have to take. And then in Moomoo, what I found really interesting is also that they have many free courses covering a really wide range of topics. So for example, in the screenshot here, you can see really, really intriguing topics like what to look for Tesla's earnings. I know a lot of the young investors will say you all love Tesla, but do you all really understand what is happening when they make their earnings announcement? I think a lot of people, when they first started, they probably don't really know how exactly to look out for. And different type of businesses and industries have different key metrics that you have to look out. And I think what Moomoo is offering is really enticing. And like this is also one of the more general kind of course that they are offering, which is like the money lessons from Warren Buffett, which I think is great as well. Like we all love Warren Buffett. It's always good to invest on the shoulder of the giants. So you get highlights from Warren Buffett's 2021 annual letter. You get to think about like the different ideas that sorry, did I click on something? The different ideas that he has about of his portfolio, and of course you also get to actually try to replicate what Warren does in, for example, your paper trading portfolio.
Right.
And then another thing that I think that the young investor should reutilize for the self-directed investing is the keyword that we keep mentioning just now by Olivia, by Zheng, which is community. So Moomoo has a really strong community. So this is our account. So Next Gen has an account. And here we post like about different things, like some of the write-ups by our students, the comic that we develop. And like the Moomoo community is always so engaging. They give a lot of comments about what you can, what they like about your content, what they think you can improve on, or some of their own thoughts about investing ideas. And I think this like positive feedback loop is actually really, really important for everyone during their learning journey. So yeah, here are just some of the examples. Like Moomoo has a lot of really awesome functions. Please go and explore.
Thanks for sharing that, Tiffany. I think for self-learners, that is that comprehensive step system is important to start. What are the reasons behind you creating Next Gen Investors Endowment?
So I think the main reason or mission why we started is really just to help you to start and advance the investor journey. Because as I mentioned, I started pretty late, and I felt that if I had this community, this place where I feel safe to learn and grow together with other people who are passionate about investing, it would have been wonderful. So that was really the reason that we decided to start it. And if you don't mind, I can go a bit deeper about what we do at Next Gen. Okay, so I will share a slide again.
So while you're sharing the slides, Zheng, what about yourself? For the online trading tools, do you use apps like Moomoo?
Yes, actually I have a Moomoo account and I do trade on it. But I have I think there are other like online tools that are also quite useful, especially maybe a website that I use often is realwisdom.com. So that website allows you to track what big investors are doing because they have to file a certain filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission in the US. So you can look at what the top managers are buying and maybe you can get ideas from there. So that's one useful website I use.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. All right, Tiffany, so you're about to share with us a little bit on the tools that you have to help people with their investment decisions. Sure.
I guess to start, just to help everyone understand a bit more on the structure of Next Gen. So the Next Gen Investors Endowment runs the Generation Z Investment Club. And then the club actually operates two programs. One is called the Generation Z Value Investing Program, and the other one is called the Next Gen ESG Investing Program. So Zheng Qing is from the Value Investing Program. To be honest, the two programs are really not that different. The key difference is just that for the ESG Investing Program, we want the students to have this ESG lens when analyzing the companies that they want to invest in. So consider the materiality of ESG issues, consider possible corporate engagement tools that you can leverage on, and then incorporate, the ESG considerations into that valuation. So that's really the key difference between the two. So Generation Z Investment Club is an intercollegiate student-run investment community that seeks to inspire the next generation of leading investors by equipping members with the right mindset and knowledge for a lifelong investor journey. So yeah, right on, Warren Buffett's shoulder.
That's great. So, what are the tools to help your mentees? Because a key element of your program is that mentor-mentee relationship. And what's special as well, and we do that in Moomoo too, is we want to establish that two-way communication and that wholesome ecosystem to help people, that community that you brought up at the beginning, right? So how, what are some striking examples for you to help your mentees?
Yeah. So I would say there are three key tools that we utilize at Next Gen. And then the first is actually the comic that I have mentioned a few times. So we consider it as edutainment, so education plus entertainment, to really help our students to get from that 0 to 1. So we will actually get all our students to read the comic that we produce, and then we will come together like sort of like a round table format, and then we just talk about it. Like, what are your favorite things of this chapter? Why? Like, what do you think about it? And then you will see that students will pick up like really interesting concepts to talk about. For example, when should we actually exit an investment? I think this is a question that a lot of people have. For example, like when we talk about valuation, like what exactly makes it cheap or what exactly makes it expensive? We also have students picking up like things like, so when we invest in a company, are we investing in its future cash flow, or are we investing in the growth prospect, or what exactly are we looking for? So like through all these discussions, that's really how you grow. Because to be honest, the world is gray, so is investing. There's really no black and white, like the right way of doing. There's no such thing. So we really want to encourage students to explore what suits them best, and then through this discussion, we also can learn from each other and again, build that community. So that's the first tool that we use. The second one is actually through practitioner-based learning. We feel that it's really, really important, again, to ride on the shoulder of the giants. So we actually bring our students to meet with professional investors. So during pre-COVID times, go to their offices. During COVID times, we use Zoom. But basically, we invite professional investors to come and speak to our students, share their investor journey, and the most important thing is what kind of mistakes they have made throughout their investor journey. And I think this is something that is really, really helpful for a lot of students because, like when you are like reading books, etc., like a lot of times, like people are very focused on what they write, but they don't share enough about what they did wrong. But it's actually really important for you to avoid the p-holes because for like Warren Buffett also said, like the number one rule is not to lose your principal. And that's something that we really want the students to, stick in their mind as well. And we also bring them to visit listed companies. So over here on the top is Xingdong Network. So this is a China video game company. And this is actually the CEO of the company. So we brought all our students to have like this roundtable discussion with him about, the future of his company, why he started this company, what does he envision the company to do in the next 10 and 20 years. And then at the bottom, our students actually went to Tokyo to visit Tokyo TV, which is also a little company in Japan. So why do we do that? Because we want you to understand what you are investing in. You are putting your money with a company because you believe in their business model, believe in their management. So we want to give our students a chance to really interact with them and understand what makes an entrepreneur great. And what makes the company model attractive.
Mm.
So the third tool that we use, and I will stop very soon. So the third tool we use is that we actually give our members real capital to deploy. So our students are managing a pool of in total 200,000 USD. That's actually sponsored by a Japanese family. So as you can see, like if you look at the performance, it doesn't look that great, to be honest. They probably have seen better. But I do want to highlight that over the past 3 years, our students went through a lot of volatility. You had like the China-US tension, you have COVID, and then now you have like the Ukraine-Russia conflict. All these like causing a lot of volatility in the markets. But this is the best time to learn. So we want our students to have real money in the market so that they can really feel, have a skin in the game, and then really experience the volatility. So here are just some of the selected companies that they're investing. So these are really the main tools that we used. And then if you are interested to follow us, we have our Moomoo account. You just scan the really cute cultured QR code and follow us there. Yeah.
I love that, Tiffany. Well, just going back to, I think, your last few slides, there's a question from the audience that would like to know how they can join your program.
Oh, okay. So you can actually search us. Search www.genzgroup.org. So that's our website.
QR code, yeah?
Yes, the QR code here. Yes, you can just scan us here, and then you can find the different programs and how to join them on the website. We will start recruiting again very soon. So we usually recruit in summer. So yeah, it's the best time to join us.
That's great. A key point you brought up is there's a lot of volatility right now. There are just so many elements that are always changing. But you said this is the best time to learn. And I think that's a key takeaway for the audience listening. Zheng Qing, for being part of this program and starting out, what is that one main takeaway that you would like to let the audience know? Because there are a lot of people that are expressing their interest in this mentor-mentee program.
I think the main takeaway would be the community element of this, because my belief is that having a community also helps your self-directed investing, because everyone has different blind spots and different areas of the market or companies that they are interested in and good at analyzing. So I think the key takeaway by joining Gen Z was really the community element. We actually have a lot of healthy debates among ourselves on the goods and the bads of the different companies that we pitch or analyze. And I think this really gives me a very good sounding board, because sometimes in my head the company sounds very, very good and everything the company does is really perfect. But when I talk to many people around the community, the same question always pops up. Why didn't I think of that? So I think this is part of our confirmation bias, where we hold on to our preconceived notions of certain companies. So having a community really helps to improve your results and also improve your thinking and process when you think about companies. So that's one thing that really helped me.
100%. That noise element, that echo chamber, confirmation bias, these are the things that are out there. And the self-directed learner has to learn how to navigate these waters of the markets. Thanks for sharing. And I think I want to zoom in a little bit into your student leader element, because the reason why, we'd love to hear from you as well with Tiffany, because, you have that experience to share for our young active investors. So maybe, share a little bit about your personal finance leadership journey.
I think my personal finance journey is really, as I mentioned, motivated by independence. So by joining Gen Z, about a year ago, and I got the opportunity to lead a team of analysts. So that really helped me in my leadership skills and really thinking of ideas to ask my team to maybe analyze or research and maybe perhaps pitch to everyone in the club. So I think that really helped my leadership sort of experience, and also gain some experience in idea generation and also sort of leading a team. And in terms of my personal finance habits, I think I can say that I usually control my monthly spending a lot so that I have extra money to invest in the market. So like bonds, stocks, ETFs, but that depends on each individual. So for personally, I have a longer investment horizon. So I mainly invest in the stock market, because stocks, I believe, have a potential to have a higher return over a long investment horizon. And I also like to read the news a lot, and I read investment books and also read annual reports of companies that I'm interested in. And it's really about learning and compounding that learning over a long period of time. So I think maybe on my investment process, I can bring up Warren Buffett, and he actually mentioned that the investment process is more of like a journalist. So you're being a journalist and you have to find out everything there is to know about a company and write a well-informed story about the company. So I think that really describes my investment process very well. So when I look at a company, I'll try to find out everything I know, everything I can find about the company in the public domain, of course, and maybe speak to people who are maybe working in the industry or familiar with the industry. So I think being a good investor takes a very, very long time and the learning never stops, which is why I really enjoy the process because I'm always learning something new every day.
I really would love to jump in here because I think when we talk about leadership, it's also thought leadership. And I think Zheng Qing has been a very important thought leader in our community because he actually has quite a contrarian view when it comes to stocks. So often, like, Zheng Qing will come out with like stock names that I never heard of and trading at a really, really low valuation. And I feel that this is actually a very rare quality among young investors these days. So because people are so easily distracted by growth and the greed to be rich quickly, that they begin to neglect fundamentals and valuation and the need to have that long-term mindset. So I think Zheng Qing did a really great job sticking to his principles and self-direct his investor journey while being that thought leader to influence the rest of the community to do the same. We also had a team in the past, which I thought was very interesting. And I think I mentioned to Olivia before privately. So we have a team that only invests in pro-women businesses. So either businesses that are run by women, so for example, Stitch Fix, or businesses that have products that benefit women. So this was an initiative that was taken by the team's portfolio manager. And I thought this is another really great example of thought leadership of how self-directed young investors are aligning their values with their asset allocation.
Wow. Yes, I was just about to ask you, what was some striking examples? And you brought up Zheng Qing, of course. I mean, it's great. I mean, what are other leaders that you have in your group? You've got different types of values here, right? People who are drawn to certain themes, certain types of investments. So is there anything else you'd like to add on to this?
I think when we get our students to join the program, we actually will ask them to draft like what is your investment strategy and philosophy. And you will see really interesting things coming from the students. Like there will be people like they just want to, like you said, focus on a certain industry or sector. So for example, they just want to be tech or consumer focused. But there will also be students that are generally like, oh, we can invest in anything, but we must not invest in things that has a negative impact on the environment, for example. This is particularly prominent when you look at our ESG investing program. Like they have a lot of filters of like the different type of companies that are like, nah, this doesn't align with our values. We're not going to put our money into it. And I think this is actually something that's increasingly prominent among the young investors. Like if you look at the older gen investors, I think the thinking is still more of like however that makes me money. But these days, like the young investors, to them, like values are really, really important. They want their capital to be doing good, and capital can do good. And that's exactly what they are doing.
Wow, I love that. And would you say that is more ESG focused, a bit more, I know, an extender point could be impact investing as well, and just, low carbon, all those themes related to sustainability. Is that a prominent theme right now you see with your mentees?
Yes, for sure. I think 100%. But I also want to bring out that, ESG, before the term was created, it was already an inherent part of long-term investing. Because any business to be sustainable, you have to care about ESG. You have to care about all your stakeholders. You have to make sure that your employees, they have good welfare, they are happy. That's what makes the business continue running. You have to make sure you are not doing harm for the environment, because if the world ends, so will your business. So for any good businesses, they need to think about sustainability, and that has always been an inherent part of it.
It's just come to light recently with the amplified versions on social media, right? Thanks for sharing.
Absolutely.
Zheng Qing, do you have anything to add to this?
I think also one point that Tiffany didn't bring up is that I think Gen Z community, there are many leaders, especially let's say we have many members in China. So I think it's very important that we have sort of leaders or people that are internationally connected so we can know more about the country. So when we want to invest in China, we can speak to the teams that are based in China because they definitely will have much more information. So I think that initiative and having this community really helps in really developing my personal views and also my investment ideas.
Excellent. Before I go into more of the community element, I would like to just take a pause right now for the audience watching and engage them in a very simple poll. So are you ready? All right, it's a yes or no question. Okay, so just engage and click on your answer if you're listening. So the first question, are you a self-directed investor? Click on your answer. All right, amazing. Yeah, we've got some self-directed investors here in the crowd, and perhaps others are using mixed methods approach, and that's good too. All right, so we understand from our entire conversation so far, self-directed investing is less of an individualistic term, right? It's really more than that if we go beneath. So with the key elements of strong communities, what would you say these communities, or to what extent do they influence each other or influence movements in general? So talking about a more macro scale.
So I think in the first place, what makes a community strong is the participation of the members. So the members of the community in the first place have to have the willingness to share. You have to be vocal about your ideas and thoughts, and learning has to be two-way. So I think that is where the influence comes. Like when you are vocal about your ideas and thoughts, when like the two-way learning occurs, you naturally will influence each other, and then you will benefit from that process. I think we have seen like different ways of how that occurs. Like it could be for bad or for good actually. Like we will see, like for example, I will talk about Wall Street bets, the whole saga of GameStop earlier last year. A lot of people they have no idea how GameStop was, and then they don't really know what they are investing into. I don't even think that they went into the stock with an investor mindset. It was really more of like everyone is talking about it, everyone seems to be making money from it, so I have to participate in it. So I think that is like the more negative part of the influence. But then the positive part of it is that you have so much access to all sorts of information because of the internet era. And then you get to learn about, for example, GameStop, which otherwise as someone who is very much rooted in Asia, I don't really know about. And then I then have this opportunity to spend time to learn about other businesses in other geographies, other industries, and then to form my own opinion and judgment, and then come back and interact with the online community who can then add to my thinking and help me develop a better thesis. So I think there are really, like two ways of looking at it. For good or for bad, it really depends on how you want to, leverage like the resources you have.
Right. Thought leadership, as we brought up as a theme. And Zheng Qing, what do you think of this?
I think what the community, what goes to the core of the community is very important. So for maybe Next Gen Investors Endowment, our core is really of learning to become better investors. So that as a core principle of our community really helps us. So we go into every debate or every discussion with that in mind, and I think that really helps us because we'll really exchange ideas and really discuss ideas, the good and the bad. And I think having that healthy debate really helps us to hone our skills to become better investors. But I also agree with Tiffany that there are bad elements where if a community is really based on hype investing and everyone just going to the same stock, that can be actually quite dangerous, especially in the last 2 years. That has been very prevalent in the investing community, and investing as a whole has come into the mainstream, so it always comes up as a topic of conversation. So why I say it's dangerous is because when you invest as a community, then personally you might not have some conviction in the stock that you buy, because maybe your friends say, oh, it's a good company, so you buy into the company. So what if the company falls 10 or 20%? Then what do? You do not know anything about the company, the financials, the business model. So I think it's very important that self-directed investors build conviction into their stock ideas. So how do they build conviction? Usually you have to research and know everything about the company and know how the business does. So when any developments happen, you know how to react. So I think one recent example just this week was Netflix. So Netflix stock price actually fell about 40% this week. So if you own Netflix before the drop, and it's because your friend told you to buy Netflix. So what do you do? Should you sell or should you buy more? Or what really caused the drop? Or is it still a good company to buy? I think these questions can only be answered if you already did the research and built the conviction before you own the company. So I think one common theme is FOMO, or fear of missing out, in the past 2 years. So one thing is very important to remember is that you don't really lose money in the investments that you don't make. So it's the one that the companies that you buy is the one that you really have to research and you have to know, so that you can make money on those. And on the opportunities you lose out, it's not that important, personally.
Yes, how you enter or exit, the sort of mindset you have, and great point about being rooted in your value system and why you even invest in the first place, and going into the DNA of certain companies. I know for myself, in my portfolio, I don't have such a huge appetite for risk, so I tend to go in with investing in companies that I truly believe in. And some people go but they've not been performing so well recently. And I'm like, nope, I'm going to keep and hold. So they go, okay, Olivia's stubborn that way. So that's my sort of mindset when I do things. And, in terms of risk and panic, I think we've seen that a lot. And there were great examples that you brought up. How do these young active investors deal with such panics in the market from what you've seen?
I think it's interesting because, as mentioned, our students actually went through a very turbulent market conditions. So, for example, in March 2020, when the entire stock market just falls off the cliff, I was actually quite surprised to see that our students did not panic. So most of them, if they already have stocks, they did not sell at the bottom. In fact, a lot of the groups actually added to their high convictions. But it's not as if it drops down and then they immediately buy. They actually held team meetings, and then they talk about, okay, so how does COVID really impact the businesses that we invest in? Is there a real material impact to it, or is everyone just selling because of fear? So they had that discussion. They really look into it, and then they decide that, okay, for this, then it's probably oversold and we should add for it. And then for that, maybe some retail businesses, okay, yes, actually the impact is quite real, so perhaps you should consider trimming or selling that position. So it was not a panic decision, but they see the opportunity that arises from that fall, and then they did a proper analysis and evaluation of what they can do with that opportunity. So I'm quite proud of my students, to be honest, because that was a very shocking moment in March, even for a professional investors, but they did it well.
Yeah, I definitely feel it. You look and see at all these young people and the sort of critical analysis they come up with, and it's great because then it becomes a two-way form of learning where it's no longer top down. like we mentioned. It's great. And that's why we are having discussions like this in the first place, right? We want to have more young people in the future. We want to have more, just bouncing ideas off each other. And I think that's the way forward in finding the best strategy for investment. Okay, so going to the community element in context, I want to go back to those examples with the volatility. And, we saw Elon Twitter example, or even that AMC GameStop example you brought up. How, with these events, let's not kid ourselves. Sometimes there is a strong pull factor that comes with these communities. You go on Reddit, you go on even the most informal platforms, and you've got thought leaders there. You don't even know how they look like. They've just got an alias, but they manage to move people's decisions. So if we amplify that, what can we learn from those examples, especially with GameStop?
I think maybe Tiffany.
It's okay, Zheng Qing, you can go first.
So I think this is where the self-directed investing part comes in, because as I mentioned previously, self-directed investing is really about having your own goals and your own investment process. So being rooted in those your goals and your process is probably easier to block out the noise, like from Reddit and from thought leaders that might or might not be actual people. It might be just hedge funds, hiding behind a Reddit account. So I think, I think it's really important to remain rooted in your personal process, because your goal might be just to get maybe 5 to 10% returns every year. And you don't need to shoot for the moon by buying companies like GameStop, where you make 100% in a week or something. So I think having your own goals and being rooted as a self-directed investor and being independent in your thinking is really quite important in your personal investing process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I agree with Zheng Qing. I think the key is really to have your own self-rules and be disciplined. I cannot emphasize this word enough, discipline. So I think when you have to keep asking yourself questions like, what type of companies do you have an edge in? Which geography do you know best? Like, what kind of valuation are you comfortable with? And then, as Zheng Qing said, what kind of goal are you trying to achieve with your investment? So you have to find your circle of competency and stay within that. So this will help you to make better judgment and avoid jumping onto bandwagons like the GameStop or the Elon Twitter thing. So like, for example, personally, like I don't invest in semiconductors. I know a lot of people love Nvidia, but how many people really understand the industry cycle of semiconductors, the business model and the technology behind? I know I don't. And I cannot sleep at night putting my money with something that I don't understand, no matter how good that company seems to be. So I think that's something that you have to have that awareness of, and you have to admit that you just can't possibly make every cent in the world. Like, there will always be money making opportunities that you will miss, and it's okay. So know your limit, set your rules, and stick by it.
Wow, that's very inspiring, Tiffany. Thanks for that. I think the audience really learned from our discussion today. But I also want to extend to that. You said, don't invest in things that you don't know about. You can't win all the time. Great point, because for my personal journey, I had to learn a lot about quantum computing, for example. And I'm so passionate about it, but most people don't understand the mechanics of it. And I had to read many books to just really get to the basic level first, right? So, going back to what Zheng Qing said at the beginning, with his strategies and, looking at his books and his knowledge base, keeping your confidence in your own circles, like you mentioned, Tiffany. Zheng Qing, do you have anything to add for, what are your favorite resources and books? Because just now you mentioned a few that you use, and we at Moomoo as well, there is this Star Institution tool that people can use for that. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience for that?
I think one of the books that I really like is called The Essays of Warren Buffett. So Warren Buffett is one of my idols, I would say. So he's really one of the people who really started my investing journey. So I started reading his book, and it's a compilation of his annual shareholder letters that he wrote to his shareholders. And I think his annual shareholders meeting is next week, so anyone can tune into that. I think it's 30th of April. So I think that book really helps me understand what is really investing, because he really speaks in a very sort of fundamental and basic way without using too much jargon, and really gets to the core of the idea of investing. I think another book is Common Stocks and Uncommon Profits. So this book is probably another step, another level into investing, where the key idea that I got from the book is really the idea of scuttlebutt, which means you talk to and find out as much information as possible by going up the grapevine, talking to people who work in the company, or even reading or watching YouTube videos about shopping experience. So this is actually one very interesting example I can bring. So when I was looking at a retailer in the US that was listed, so what I did was I tried to embody the investment process, and I went to YouTube to search for vloggers who are shopping in the retailer to see what is the real shopping environment, and what they say, is it good or bad, and everything. I think that's really primary data that most investors wouldn't go and find out. So I think that really helped me in determining whether the investment was a good investment or not. And I didn't invest in that company because it seemed like after finding primary data, I thought that it wasn't what I liked. Yeah. So I think it really helps in my process. So these two books are, I think, quite good to read.
Thanks for sharing. What about yourself, Tiffany?
So I think Zheng Qing brought up like the classics. So I'm just going to introduce something that's a bit unconventional. So I would recommend actually reading our comics. So I'm just going to share the screen. So we actually develop our own comics, and we actually do dive quite deep about companies. So we interview real listed companies as well as management to draw our comics. So this one, for example, that you are seeing, we actually talk about Vitasoy. I think many from the audience should have seen this and probably drink it before in your life. But do you really know like the history of it? So we actually drew about so this is the founder of Vitasoy. Why did he found Vitasoy? What kind of challenges they face during the growth of the companies, and then what kind of developments they have made over the years, and then why, what are some of the considerations that you can have about investing in Vitasoy. So again, there is no black and white to investing, no right or wrong. But we do feel that if you have a very visual and fun way of learning about investing, why not, right? So I will recommend this, and then again you can find all of them either on our website or actually on Moomoo as well. We do publish very regularly on our Moomoo account.
Yes, and for your Moomoo account, how do you find the community on there?
They are incredible. So I have to say, as a content creator, the most frustrating thing that you can have is you post something and nobody likes and nobody replies. You have so self-doubt. You're like, oh my god, did I just wasted my life creating something that nobody appreciates? But that's not the case for Moomoo. We always receive really nice, kind comments. People who like it, that share it with their friends. We even have people coming back to us and hey, why are you publishing so slow? Can you publish faster? That is so encouraging. And then sometimes they will bring up really interesting ideas as well. They will suggest oh, why don't you cover this or that in your next episode? And we take that really, really seriously. So I love that. I think so far working with Moomoo has been such a pleasant experience, not just on the online community, but also with the actual employees of Moomoo. So for example, Olivia, and then we also have Jessie behind the scenes. They're all awesome. I just love them so much. Every day I drink with my cup of that's how much I'm in love with this company.
Well, likewise, I think we are both very passionate about communities, about partnerships, and putting, these young investors ahead of the curve and just making sure that we both learn from them and they learn from us. And one thing, Tiffany, that was very special when I first met you and your fellow employees, they really gave off that strong element of being inspired by their own students. And I definitely gathered that from our discussion today. For the community element, do you also post these webtoons and publish the mangas regularly, or is that now, is it bi-weekly or bi-monthly?
So we are publishing. Yeah, so we are publishing weekly right now.
Okay.
So every Wednesday is the day that we publish new episodes. And I think right now for the English version, we are at chapter 21 on Moomoo. But then we also have the Chinese version, which then you have to log on to the Moomoo China app. For that one, we are actually at chapter 40. Yeah.
Wow. And yes, you need to do it weekly. If not, the community on Moomoo will be like, where is it? Great. All right. Okay, so I think this is a good chance to ask the audience a second question. And for those people watching, it's just a yes or no. So just participate and click on your answer. So are you excited about using Next Gen Investors Endowment Webtoon or manga as the starting tool for your investment journey? Yes or no? Because I am. Actually, that was the main draw factor at the beginning. It was just so different, so refreshing. And we really appreciate you coming onto our panel today to discuss all the tools that you have to help active investors.
Thank you. It has been a great honor to be here today as well. And thank you so much to all the audience for spending your Sunday morning with us.
Yes, thank you so much. All
Yeah,
right,
thanks, Olivia.
Thank you,
Thanks a lot. It's been a pleasure. Yeah, and thanks everyone for listening to us. Hope you learned something today.
Definitely, we all did, and I really love this discussion, and I hope that in the future we will be able to discuss more topics and have more sessions. Okay, so before I let you go, I've got a last question for you. What is your last thought or last thoughts you'd like to give to our audience watching before we end the session?
I think for me is don't be afraid to start investing. Because as I shared earlier, like I really thought that I couldn't do it. And I really thought that even if I start, I can't do it well. But I think I have made a lot of progress since the day that I started investing, and it has made so much changes to my life. I think this is something that it doesn't have to be a job. It's a skill set that everyone should have and should continue to develop. So I really just want to say, just start. Don't be afraid.
It's funny that I got the same thought. So I really think that everyone should really just start investing. And there's never a good time to start, because when everyone wants to begin, it's always, everyone is either saying the market is too bad or the market is too good. There's never a good time to start. So I think if you have a long-term horizon of maybe 20 to 30 years, it's always a good time to start. And I think just learn as much as you can and go in with the mindset that you should be curious on learning about the world and business in general. And I think you shouldn't treat it as Tiffany mentioned, it's just not a job. It's not a job. It's really something that everyone should do because it's part of their life and a way to manage their savings and also gain financial independence. So I think just get started today.
Thank you so much, Tiffany and Zheng Qing, for coming on to our session today. And we look forward to the next one we're having together.
Thank you, Olivia.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Olivia.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
To the audience, as usual, it's been a pleasure having you on this Sunday afternoon. And we loved your questions. We loved your engagement. And if you missed out on yesterday's day one Sidley Fest session, and today you'd like to watch the replays, we will have this available on all our other broadcast channels. So do follow our social media pages for more details. You can scan the QR code to find out more. All right, and if you're also interested, here's an exciting offer for you. And if you would like to spin the wheel and win a stock for yourself, looking into US stocks, you can scan the QR code for more details. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today, and we'll see you next time. Once again, I'm Olivia Higgins. Enjoy your Sunday. Bye.